Charon's Obol is an allusive term for the coin placed in or on the mouth of a dead person before burial. Greek and Latin literary sources specify the coin as an obol, and explain it as a payment, a bribe for Charon, the ferryman who conveyed souls across the river that divided the world of the living from the world of the dead. Archaeological examples of these coins, of various denominations in practice, have been called the most famous grave goods from antiquity. The custom is primarily associated with the ancient Greeks and Romans, though it is also found in the ancient Near East. In Western Europe, a similar usage of coins in burials occurs in regions inhabited by Celts of the Gallo-Roman, Hispano-Roman and Romano-British cultures, and among the Germanic peoples of late antiquity and the early Christian era, with sporadic examples into the early 20th century. Although archaeology shows that the myth reflects an actual custom, the placement of coins with the dead was neither pervasive nor confined to a single coin in the deceased's mouth. In many burials, inscribed metal leaf tablets or exonumia take the place of the coin, or gold foil crosses in the early Christian era. The presence of coins or a coin hoard in Germanic ship burials suggests an analogous concept. The phrase Charon's Obol, as used by archaeologists, sometimes can be understood as referring to a particular religious rite, but often serves as a kind of shorthand for coinage as grave goods presumed to further the deceased's passage into the afterlife. In Latin, Charon's Obol sometimes is called the viaticum, or sustenance for the journey. The placement of the coin on the mouth has been explained also as a seal to protect the deceased's soul or to prevent it from returning. Terminology: the coin for Charon is conventionally referred to in Greek literature as an obolo, as one of the basic denominations of ancient Greek coinage, worth 1/6 of a drachma. Among the Greeks, coins in actual burials are sometimes also a danarchy or other relatively small denomination gold, silver, bronze or copper coin in local use. In Roman literary sources the coin is usually bronze or copper. For the 6th to the 4th centuries BC in the Black Sea region, low-value coins depicting arrowheads or dolphins were in use mainly for the purpose of local exchange and to serve as Charon's Obol. The payment is sometimes specified with a term for boat fare, fee for ferrying, or waterway toll. The word norlin is defined by the Christian-era lexicographer Hesychius of Alexandria as the coin put into the mouth of the dead. One of the meanings of danarchy is given as the obol for the dead. The Suda defines danarchy as a coin traditionally buried with the dead for paying the ferryman to cross the river Charon, and explicates the definition of porthmion as a ferryman's fee with a quotation from the poet Callimachus, who notes the custom of carrying the porthmion in the parched mouths of the dead. Charon's Obol as viaticum in Latin. Charon's Obol is sometimes called a viaticum, which in everyday usage means provision for a journey, encompassing food, money and other supplies. The same word can refer to the living allowance granted to those stripped of the property and condemned to exile, and by metaphorical extension to preparing for death at the end of life's journey. Cicero, in his philosophical dialogue on old age, has the interlocutor Cato the Elder combine two metaphors, nearing the end of a journey, and ripening fruit, in speaking of the approach to death, drawing on this metaphorical sense of provision for the journey into death. Ecclesiastical Latin borrowed the term viaticum for the form of Eucharist that is placed in the mouth of a person who is dying as provision for the soul's passage to eternal life. The earliest literary evidence of this Christian usage for viaticum appears in Paulinus's account of the death of St. Ambrose in 397 AD. The 7th century Synodus Hiberniensis offers an etymological explanation. This word, viaticum, is the name of communion, that is to say, the guardianship of the way, for it guards the soul until it shall stand before the judgment seat of Christ. Thomas Aquinas explained the term as a prefiguration of the fruit of God, which will be in the promised land, and because of this it is called the viaticum, since it provides us with the way of getting there. The idea of Christians as travelers in search of salvation finds early expression in the Confessions of St. Augustine. An equivalent word in Greek is aphodion, like viaticum. The word is used in antiquity to mean provision for a journey, and later in Greek patristic literature for the Eucharist administered on the point of death. Archaeological evidence. The use of coins as grave goods shows a variety of practice that casts doubt on the accuracy of the term Charon's Obol as an interpretational category. The phrase continues to be used, however, to suggest the ritual or religious significance of coinage in a funerary context. Coins are found in Greek burials by the 5th century BC, as soon as Greece was monetized, and appear throughout the Roman Empire into the 5th century AD, with examples conforming to the Charon's Obol type as far west as the Iberian Peninsula, north into Britain, and east to the Vistula River in Poland. The jawbones of skulls found in certain burials in Roman Britain are stained greenish from contact with a copper coin. Roman coins are found later in Anglo-Saxon graves, but often pierced for wearing as a necklace or amulet. Among the ancient Greeks, only about 5 to 10% of known burials contain any coins at all. In some Roman cremation cemeteries, however, as many as half the graves yield coins. Many, if not most, of these occurrences conform to the myth of Charon's Obol in neither the number of coins nor the positioning. Variety of placement and number, including but not limited to a single coin in the mouth, is characteristic of all periods and places. Hellenized world. Some of the oldest coins from Mediterranean tombs have been found on Cyprus. In 2001, Distrupa Georgiades, a specialist in Achaemenid numismatics, said that investigations of 33 tombs had yielded 77 coins. Although denomination varies, as does the number in any given burial, small coins predominate. Coins started to be placed in tombs almost as soon as they came into circulation on the island in the 6th century, and some predate both the first issue of the Obol and any literary reference to Charon's fee, although only a small percentage of Greek burials contain coins. Among these there are widespread examples of a single coin positioned in the mouth of a skull with cremation remains. In cremation urns, the coin sometimes adheres to the jawbone of the skull. At Olynthus, 136 coins were found with burials. In 1932, archaeologists reported that 20 graves had each contained 4 bronze coins, which they believed were intended for placement in the mouth. A few tombs at Olynthus have contained 2 coins, but more often a single bronze coin was positioned in the mouth or within the head of the skeleton. In Hellenistic-era tombs at one cemetery in Athens, coins, usually bronze, were found most often in the dead person's mouth, though sometimes in the hand, loose in the grave, or in a vessel. At Harnia, an originally Minoan settlement on Crete, a tomb dating from the second half of the 3rd century BC held a rich variety of grave goods, including fine gold jewelry, a gold tray with the image of a bird, a clay vessel, a bronze mirror, a bronze strigil, and a bronze Charon coin depicting Zeus. In excavations of 91 tombs at a cemetery in Amphipolis during the mid to late 1990s, a majority of the dead were found to have a coin in the mouth. The burials dated from the 4th to the late 2nd century BC. A notable use of a danarchy occurred in the burial of a woman in 4th century BC, thusly a likely initiate into the Orphic Dionysiac mysteries. Her religious paraphernalia included gold tablets inscribed with instructions for the afterlife and a terracotta figure of a Bacchic worshipper. Upon her lips was placed a gold danarchy stamped with the Gorgon's head. Coins begin to appear with greater frequency in graves during the 3rd century BC, along with gold wreaths and plain unguentaria in place of the earlier lekythoi. Black figure lekythoi had often depicted Dionysiac scenes. The later white ground vessels often show Charon, usually with his pole, but rarely accepting the coin. The Black Sea region has also produced examples of Charon's Obol. At Apollonia Pontica, the custom had been practiced from the mid-4th century BC in one cemetery. For instance, 17% of graves contained small bronze local coins in the mouth or hand of the deceased. During 1998 excavations of Piccanari, on the coast of present-day Georgia, a single coin was found in 7 burials, and a pair of coins in 2. The coins, silver triobols of the local Colchian currency, were located near the mouth, with the exception of one that was near the hand. It is unclear whether the dead were Colchians or Greeks. The investigating archaeologists did not regard the practice as typical of the region, but speculate that the local geography lent itself to adapting the Greek myth, as bodies of the dead in actuality had to be ferried across the river from the town to the cemetery. Near East Charon's Obol is usually regarded as Hellenic, and a single coin in burials is often taken as a mark of Hellenization, but the practice may be independent of Greek influence in some regions. The placing of a coin in the mouth of the deceased is found also during Parthian and Sasanian times in what is now Iran. Curiously, the coin was not the danarchy of Persian origin, as it was sometimes among the Greeks, but usually a Greek drachma. In the Yazdi region, objects consecrated in graves may include a coin or piece of silver. The custom is thought to be perhaps as old as the Seleucid era and may be a form of Charon's Obol. Discoveries of a single coin near the skull in tombs of the Levant suggest a similar practice among Phoenicians in the Persian period. Jewish ossuaries sometimes contain a single coin, for example, in an ossuary bearing the inscriptional name Miriam, daughter of Simeon. A coin minted during the reign of Herod Agrippa I, dated 42–43 AD, was found in the skull's mouth. Although the placement of a coin within the skull is uncommon in Jewish antiquity and was potentially an act of idolatry, rabbinic literature preserves an allusion to Charon in A Lament for the Dead, tumbling aboard the ferry and having to borrow his fare. Boats are sometimes depicted on ossuaries of the walls of Jewish crypts, and one of the coins found within a skull may have been chosen because it depicted a ship. Western Europe. Cemeteries in the Western Roman Empire vary widely. In a 1st century BC community in Siza, Alpine Gaul, coins were included in more than 40% of graves, but none was placed in the mouth of the deceased. The figure is only 10% for cremations at Emperies in Spain and York in Britain. On the Iberian Peninsula, evidence interpreted as Charon's Obol has been found at Tarragona. In Belgic Gaul, varying deposits of coins are found with the dead for the 1st through 3rd centuries, but are most frequent in the late 4th and early 5th centuries. 30 Gallo-Roman burials near the Pont de Pasly, Soissons, each contained a coin for Charon. Germanic burials show a preference for gold coins, but even within a single cemetery and a narrow time period, the disposition varies. In one Merovingian cemetery
cemetery of Frénouville, Normandy, which was in use for 4 centuries after Christ. Coins are found in a minority of the graves. At one time, the cemetery was regarded as exhibiting 2 distinct phases: an earlier Gallo-Roman period when the dead were buried with vessels, notably of glass, and Charon's Obol, and later, when they were given funerary dress and goods according to Frankish custom. This neat division, however, has been shown to be misleading. In the 3rd to 4th century area of the cemetery, coins were placed near the skulls or hands, sometimes protected by a pouch or vessel, or were found in the grave fill as if tossed in. Bronze coins usually numbered 1 or 2 per grave, as would be expected from the custom of Charon's Obol, but one burial contained 23 bronze coins, and another held a gold solidus and a submissus. The latter examples indicate that coins might have represented relative social status. In the newer part of the cemetery, which remained in use through the 6th century, the deposition patterns for coinage were similar, but the coins themselves were not contemporaneous with the burials, and some were pierced for wearing. The use of older coins may reflect a shortage of new currency, or may indicate that the old coins held a traditional symbolic meaning apart from their denominational value. The varied placement of coins of different values demonstrates at least partial if not complete loss of understanding of the original religious function of Charon's Obol, remarks Bonnie F. Ross, a specialist in Merovingian burial customs. These factors make it difficult to determine the rite's significance. Quote, although the rite of Charon's Obol was practiced no more uniformly in northern Europe than in Greece, there are examples of individual burials as small groups conforming to the pattern. At Broadstairs in Kent, a young man had been buried with a Merovingian gold tremissus in his mouth. A gold-plated coin was found in the mouth of a young man buried on the Isle of Wight in the mid-6th century. His other grave goods included vessels, a drinking horn, a knife, and gaming counters of ivory with 1 cobalt blue glass piece. Scandinavian and Germanic gold bracteates found in burials of the 5th and 6th centuries, particularly those in Britain, have also been interpreted in light of Charon's Obol. These gold discs, similar to coins though generally single-sided, were influenced by late Roman imperial coins and medallions but feature iconography from Norse myth and runic inscriptions. The stamping process created an extended rim that forms a frame with a loop for threading. The bracteates often appear in burials as a woman's necklace. A function comparable to that of Charon's Obol is suggested by examples such as a man's burial at Monkton in Kent on a group of several male graves on Gotland, Sweden, for which the bracteate was deposited in a pouch beside the body. In the Gotland burials, the bracteates lack rim and loop, and show no traces of wear, suggesting that they had not been intended for everyday use. According to one interpretation, the purse hoard in the Sutton Hoo ship burial, which contained a variety of Merovingian gold coins, unites the traditional Germanic voyage to the afterlife with an unusually splendid form of Charon's Obol. The burial yielded 37 gold tremisses dating from the late 6th and early 7th century, 3 unstruck coin blanks, and 2 small gold ingots. It has been conjectured that the coins were to pay the oarsmen who would row the ship into the next world, while the ingots were meant for the steersmen. Although Charon is usually a lone figure in depictions from both antiquity and the modern era, there is some slight evidence that his ship might be furnished with oarsmen. A fragment of 6th century BC pottery has been interpreted as Charon sitting in the stern as steersman of a boat fitted with 10 pairs of oars and rowed by Idola, shades of the dead. A reference in Lucian seems also to imply that the shades might row the boat. In Scandinavia,
Scattered examples of Charon's Obol have been documented from the Roman Iron Age and the Migration period. In the Viking Age, eastern Sweden produces the best evidence, Denmark rarely, and Norway and Finland inconclusively. In the 13th and 14th centuries, Charon's Obol appears in graves in Sweden, Scania, and Norway. Swedish folklore documents the custom from the 18th into the 20th century. Among Christians, the custom of Charon's Obol not only continued into the Christian era but was adopted by Christians, as a single coin was sometimes placed in the mouth for Christian burials. At RC Saint Restitut in Picardy, a Merovingian grave yielded a coin of Constantine I, the first Christian emperor, used as Charon's Obol. In Britain, the practice was just as frequent, if not more so, among Christians and persisted even to the end of the 19th century. A folklorist writing in 1914 was able to document a witness in Britain who had seen a penny placed in the mouth of an old man as he lay in his coffin. In 1878, Pope Pius IX was entombed with a coin. The practice was widely documented around the turn of the 19th and 20th centuries in Greece, where the coin was sometimes accompanied by key, ghost coins and crosses. See also exonumia. So-called ghost coins also appear with the dead. These are impressions of an actual coin, a numismatic icon struck into a small piece of gold foil. In a 5th or 4th century BC grave at Syracuse, Sicily, a small rectangular gold leaf stamped with a dual-faced figure, possibly Demeter, core, was found in the skeleton's mouth. In a marble cremation box from the mid-2nd century BC, the Charon's piece took the form of a bit of gold foil stamped with an owl, in addition to the charred bone fragments. The box also contained gold leaves from a wreath of the type sometimes associated with the mystery religions. Within an Athenian family burial plot of the 2nd century BC, a thin gold disc similarly stamped with the owl of Athens had been placed in the mouth of each male. These examples of the Charon's piece resemble in material and size the tiny inscribed tablet, a funerary amulet called a lamella or a totlin pass, a passport for the dead, with instructions on navigating the afterlife, conventionally regarded as a form of Orphic or Dionysiac devotional. Several of these prayer sheets have been found in positions that indicate placement in or on the deceased's mouth. A functional equivalence with the Charon's piece is further suggested by the evidence of flattened coins used as mouth coverings from graves in Crete. A gold phylactery with a damaged inscription invoking the syncretic god Serapis was found within the skull in a burial from the late 1st century AD, in southern Rome. The gold tablet may have served both as a protective amulet during the deceased's lifetime and then, with its insertion into the mouth, possibly on the model of Charon's Obol, as a totem pass. In a late Roman-era burial in Durrës near Baalbek, Lebanon, the forehead, nose, and mouth of the deceased, a woman, insofar as skeletal remains can indicate, were covered with sheets of gold leaf. She wore a wreath made from gold oak leaves, and her clothing had been sewn with gold leaf ovals decorated with female faces. Several glass vessels were arranged at her feet, and her discoverers interpreted the bronze coin close to her head as an example of Charon's Obol. Textual evidence also exists for covering portions of the deceased's body with gold foil. One of the accusations of heresy against the Phrygian Christian movement known as the Montanists was that they sealed the mouths of their dead with plates of gold like initiates into the mysteries. Factual or not, the charge indicates an anxiety that Christian practice be distinguished from that of other religions, and again suggests that Charon's Obol and the Orphic gold tablets could fulfill a similar purpose. The early Christian poet Prudentius seems to be referring either to these inscribed gold leaf tablets or to the larger gold foil coverings in one of his condemnations of the mystery religions. Prudentius says that auri lamina were placed on the bodies of initiates as part of funeral rites. This practice may or may not be distinct from the funerary use of gold leaf inscribed with figures and placed on the eyes, mouths, and chests of warriors in Macedonian burials during the late Archaic period. In September 2008, archaeologists working near Pella in northern Greece publicized the discovery of 20 warrior graves in which the deceased wore bronze helmets, and were supplied with iron swords and knives along with these gold leaf coverings. Gold lacquers in Gaul and in Alemannic territory. Christian graves of the Merovingian period reveal an analogous Christianized practice in the form of gold, a gold alloy leaf shaped like a cross, imprinted with designs, and deposited possibly as votives or amulets for the deceased. These paper-thin, fragile gold crosses are sometimes referred to by scholars with the German term Goldblattkreuz. They appear to have been sewn onto the deceased's garment just before burial, not worn during life, and in this practice are comparable to the pierced Roman coins found in Anglo-Saxon graves that were attached to clothing instead of or in addition to being threaded onto a necklace. The crosses are characteristic of Lombardic Italy, where they were fastened to veils and placed over the deceased's mouth in a continuation of Byzantine practice. Throughout the Lombardic realm and north into Germanic territory, the crosses gradually replaced bracteates during the 7th century. The transition is signaled by Scandinavian bracteates found in Kent that are stamped with cross motifs resembling the Lombardic crosses. Two plain gold foil crosses of Latin form, found in the burial of a 7th century East Saxon king, are the first known examples from England, announced in 2004. The king's other grave goods included glass vessels made in England and 2 different Merovingian gold coins, each of which had a cross on the reverse. Coins of the period were adapted with Christian iconography in part to facilitate the use as an alternative to amulets of traditional religions. Scandinavian Gullgubber. Scandinavia also produced small and fragile gold foil pieces, called gullgubber, that were worked in repoussé with human figures. These begin to appear in the late Iron Age and continue into the Viking Age. In form they resemble the gold foil pieces such as those found at Duries, but the gullgubber were not fashioned with a fastening element and are not associated with burials. They occur in the archaeological records sometimes singly, but most often in large numbers. Some scholars have speculated that they are a form of temple money or votive offering, but Sharon Ratke has suggested that they might represent good wishes for travelers, perhaps as a metaphor for the dead on their journey to the other world, especially those depicting wraiths.